Hey y'all, it's Laura, and I'm back with a Wedding Wednesday layout. Now, the Wedding Wednesday is scrapping layouts from my wedding, which was 12 years ago, but this is my beautiful version of the album that has a lot of journaling and some really pretty pages, whereas the album I had created previously is very factual, has all of the tiny details that went into the ceremony. Now, to get started though, I wanted to do something a little bit different for my title, and I'm using a paper piercer or an awl or a pokey tool, however you like, to follow the design. Now, I'm not too worried about some of the lines being thin and some of the lines being thicker. That's the calligraphy style of the writing. But since I'm going to be using a very simple back stitch, I don't need the thicker areas to be more defined. And so, as you can see, you can read the always quite nicely already. And I'm going to go ahead and unroll all of this black thread and start my back stitching. Now, if you are looking in the DMC color list, black is 310, and that is the one that I used here. I am just tying off the end, and then I'm going to thread my needle and go ahead and start on the left side of the word. Hold it up so you can see it. And just starting at the back, this is a super simple stitch. If you're new to hand stitching, I do have a tutorial showing you several different types of stitching, as well as how to incorporate sequins in your stitching. And I will make sure to add that at the very end of the video. It should just pop up on your screen, and you can go to that directly to that video if you would like to see that tutorial. But for this layout, very simple back stitch, just going back and forth in a straight line, and quickly it makes great cursive writing. It just does a beautiful job with cursive. I'm using all 6 strands of the floss. I did not tear it apart at all because I want this to be a nice thick word. It is going to be part of a longer title, but I want the always to definitely stand out. Now, one thing to keep in mind with hand stitching is to pull your thread all the way through and verify you've gotten it all the way through, because it can very easily get knotted in the back. It just wraps around itself in knots, and you can end up with a big mass of thread at the back of your paper if you're not careful. Now, here I'm showing you that I want to make sure that I'm following the cursive lines, and I'm not going to have big pieces of thread going between holes in the back. And so I went ahead, I skipped a hole and went ahead, skipped a hole, and then came back and filled in those holes so that I could follow the line of the script. I hope that makes sense and that you guys caught that. But it was just a little trick that I used to make sure that I don't end up stuck and in a hole that's far away from the next place I need to go. I have been hand stitching for longer than I have been scrapbooking, and I've been scrapbooking over 20 years. My mom taught me how to hand stitch when I was about 10, 11, somewhere in there. And I have always really enjoyed it, and I do some hand stitching on a lot of my layouts. Not always do it online, on camera, because it is quite a tedious thing to watch. I won't make you watch the entire thing. In just a moment, we'll skip forward to the finished stitched layout and let you have a nice close-up look of the stitching. But I think this is a really fun way to create a title. One thing you got to keep in mind, of course, is where your photo is going to be. Have an idea of how you want to lay out the layout before the layout. Nice. Be aware of how you want to lay out your page before you start stitching, because the title might be in the wrong place or make it awkward. So just tying it off at the end here, I do several knots on top of each other so that it doesn't pull the string back through over time. Trimming off the edge, and here's my beautiful hand-stitched always. I'm really excited about how this came out. It was even better than I was expecting. Here's the original. Mine's pretty good, I think. So going back to my photo, I'm going to go ahead and line this up. I'm going to keep my photo to the top right corner of the page, and I want to do a couple of borders on this one, mostly because this background is very sky blue, has little dots like clouds in the background, and I felt like it was a bit floaty that needed to be reined in just a little bit. And adding a border gives it a nice linear feel that to me just makes it feel a bit more structured. And I do enjoy a bit of structure on my layouts. So I'm going to add a line of white and then a line of black. You'll notice that I have gutted both of these papers so that I'm not wasting any of that beautiful luscious cardstock back behind my photos. And here I'm going to back the photo with black first. So I did white and then black. And this will really help to draw attention into the photo itself. Because this bright blue is my background, I want to make sure the photo does stand out and has a stark contrast to that bright color. Now, the reason I chose this background color is because it's a very close match to the shade of blue in my dad's tie and shirt. He is wearing a black suit with a blue shirt and a blue and silver tie. And I love the way this background really draws attention to him, because myself as the bride being in all white, obviously going to draw some attention. But because of the colors I've chosen here, it really draws some attention to him, I think, and that is the point. The rest of the title is going to be, I am with you always. And this has a dual meaning. My dad has passed since this time period. We were married in 2008 and he passed in 2015. So we did get very many years with him and we really do treasure that time. But I thought this was a nice little dual meaning to the title because he's always with us in spirit. And in the moment, I have a small story that I wanted to tell with this photo. Walking down the aisle with my dad, I was unbelievably nervous. Believe it or not, I get stage fright. I know that I'm out here doing YouTube videos, talking to the camera, and seem very outgoing. And I can be outgoing one-on-one. But in a setting where I am the center of attention, I do get very nervous. And while we opened up the doors, I had seen my husband at the other end and had given him a big old grin. And then I realized there are hundreds of people staring at me. And I don't know if I started to shake or if I just was moving a little bit slowly, but my dad knew immediately that I was extremely nervous. And he just leaned over and said, "Deep breath, honey," which was hard to do in a wedding dress, let's be honest. But it just touched me so much in that moment that he knew I was a little uncomfortable and even on my wedding day was trying to make me feel better. And that's just perfectly illustrates the relationship that my dad and I had. And he just has always been that person that could make me calm down, relax, get the anxiety moving away. That has always been a special bond for us. So now I've got a whole bunch of fussy cut florals. Now that large pink floral that I cut a piece off, that is from the Floral Ephemera Pack. There's a lot of large pieces in the Wonders Ephemera Packs this time, which I'll be honest, not super excited about the giant birds, but I do like the florals quite a lot. So just be aware, they're very large pieces, as big as your hand or your palm in some cases. So just be very aware of the sizing there. Adding some butterflies, because of course I'm adding butterflies. I love butterflies, and I think they're especially appropriate to sprinkle around florals. So I just have them kind of fluttering around my floral clusters. So now that I've glued everything down off camera, I have decided to come in with my T-square ruler and add some journaling to the left of my photo and just under that little butterfly at the bottom. And I'm just mostly going to be talking about that story of my nerves in that part of the journaling. I have added a small label underneath of the photo, and in that one I'm just going to be talking about the face that I'm making is aimed at my soon-to-be husband at the time, and I had just walked in the door and seen him for the first time and just sent him the biggest smile because I was so excited to see him, and that it was just a very special and exciting moment for me. Coming in with some Nuvo drops, I'm going to fill in a lot of the larger florals with some gold Nuvo. I use Nuvo on a lot of my layouts for a controlled splattering around the clusters, but I also like to put it in the center of my flowers for a little bit of dimension and sparkle. And I'm also going going to add it behind my butterflies. I do love a good butterfly trail, and behind that green one at the top, I'm going to do a little loop-de-loop because it's fun. It just adds a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of creativeness to the layout, and I just really like Gold Nouveau, so any opportunity to play with it or, excuse to play with it, I'm all in. Now, I forgot to do my scattering first. I typically do some scattering and then the splattering, but I forgot to do the scattering, so it will come after the splattering this time. Coming in with some gold ink spray, adding it around each of my clusters and my stitching, and then I will bring in the Wonders cardstock sticker sheet here to pull in a couple of pieces. One, I wanted to add a little tab of some sort up here at the top, just for a little extra something special, just to kind of fill in that gap right there at the top right of my photo. And then I'm going to pull some of these gold hearts to scatter amidst my florals, just to add another little hit of gold throughout the layout. Now you'll notice that with my dad's suit being so black, just the title being black wasn't going to be enough for this layout. Adding that black border around the outside helps to tie that black in to the finished design. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Until next time, bye!